Hi, I'm Dr. Gwen, and I'm a psychologist who specializes in neurological and developmental differences. I created my channel to be a go-to resource for empowering the neurodiverse and disabled community. In this video, I'll tell you everything you need to know about Individualized Transition Plans, or ITPs, and give you some tips along the way. If you have a student who is supported by an IEP and is 16 or older, then this video is definitely for you. Okay, so what is an ITP? ITP stands for Individualized Transition Plan. These are plans that are housed inside an Individualized Education Program, or IEP. If you'd like to know more about IEPs, click on the card above. In order to have an ITP, your student must qualify for an IEP. Since ITPs are part of an IEP, they are legally supported by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA. So, transition planning is federally required for all students who have an IEP. An ITP needs to be in place when the student turns 16. If you think that your student would benefit, though, from including an ITP in their IEP before they turn 16, talk to your IEP team. Professionally, I recommend that transition planning start early and no later than freshman year. I find that my clients usually benefit from having a longer runway and a softer landing. The main focus of an ITP is to prepare students for life after high school. Depending on your students' needs, this plan could range from strengthening independent living skills all the way to getting them ready for college. ITPs should start with an assessment, where accurate and reliable data is collected from a combination of informal and formal assessments. Informal measures are more intuitive. An example of this would be a school observation. Formal measures are standardized and compare students to their peers. A helpful standardized measure in transition is the adaptive behavior assessment, and this measures an individual's adaptive skills and provides age equivalence. Informal and formal measurements are both needed in assessment. Oh, and it's also important that assessments are age appropriate. Ideally, data for the ITP should come directly from the student. If a student is unable to provide data or communication's unreliable because of limitations or challenges, people who know the student well and people who will be supporting the student beyond high school should be included. In my experience, students who struggle with expression are often written off way too quickly. People don't think that these students are competent or want to be involved in planning for their future. This has really always been interesting to me, especially when the heart of transition planning is in fostering a young person's agency and independence. If you have a student who struggles with expression, please don't write them off so quickly. Please try everything you can to give that student access to communicating their thoughts, choices, dreams, and fears. Sometimes this means getting creative and helping the student feel more comfortable before asking them a bunch of questions. It might also mean that you're more mindful about how much you're asking and how fast you're asking it. I've also seen parents excluded from the assessment phase without good reason. Excluding parents from transition planning creates a few problems. First, functional and living skills data is either limited or not included. Transition plans are all about functional skills, so limiting this kind of information will result in a short-sighted or a generic transition plan, which won't have the desired effect of helping a student build meaningful and functional skills. Second, students with IEPs tend to live with their parents much longer and depend on them as their primary support system. So shouldn't parents then be a main player in transition planning? Okay, one last thought on this. Excluding parents can also result in missing really critical cultural values that play a huge role in planning for a student's future. Now that we have the source of data locked down, let's talk about what data to collect. First, it's important to understand who the student is. What are their strengths, needs, interests, and preferences? It's also helpful to understand what their dreams and goals and fears are for their future. While these can be really difficult questions to answer, giving students formal opportunities to think about the questions can really be helpful. After collecting qualitative information, it's time to get a solid understanding of the student's skills as they relate to adult living. The IDEA requires that goals cover three main areas, and these are learning or education and training, working or employment, and independent living. One of the best ways to capture a student's skills in these areas is by using an up-to-date inventory that accurately reflect what it's like for adults living in today's society. Also, it's really helpful to have grade levels for reading, writing, and math right at your fingertips. Knowing this helps to set expectations appropriately. After data is collected, post-secondary goals are written in the learning, working, and living areas. It's important to note that living goals are identified as optional, and that goals in this category don't need to be offered if data supports this decision. In my entire professional career, I have never had a student who didn't need a living skills goal, but I often see this area left blank. Living or adaptive skills make up the bulk of independent living, so please do not overlook this area. Post-secondary goals are goals that a student hopes to achieve after leaving high school. These should be measurable and specific to the student. For example, stating that a student will attend college is not specific enough, and actually that doesn't even satisfy compliance. Instead, stating that a student will attend community college to obtain a certificate in early childhood education is. Please don't feel pinned down by writing specific goals. These can always be updated if a student's interests or functioning shifts. I'd rather you write specific goals that result in good, tailored support than write generic goals that lead to superficial services and supports. Generic goals rarely move the needle for building meaningful skills. Each post-secondary goal should have a corresponding annual transition goal. These are activities that facilitate the post-secondary goal and are attainable within 1 year. Please spend time here and be specific. What activities will a student be doing to build skills? When will these activities happen? Who will be responsible to offer opportunities for practice? I encourage you to change the way you write goals. Instead of using accuracy data for outcomes, use frequency data or how many times a student will practice a skill per day or per week. Skill building is all about practice, not about perfection. Finally, identify what agencies and people are involved in the transition plan. Here in California, this could include the Regional Center or the Department of Rehabilitation. Good transition plans connect students to their community resources, especially ones that they will need support from after exiting the district. Including other agencies also helps with understanding deadlines so that services are continued after a student leaves high school. You never want to be in a position where a student leaves high school or exits the district and has nothing to go to and no support. Remember that the transition plan is part of an IEP. It's not a separate document or it's not a separate plan. If you have a student who's 16 or over and has an IEP, please make sure an ITP is included in the IEP. I'd love to leave you with some guiding principles of transition planning. These are: start transition planning early. Remember, longer runways, softer landings. Use informal and formal assessments. Be comprehensive. Be student-driven. Please be mindful of cultural differences and sensitivities. Encourage student participation at all costs. You might have to be creative here. Empower family involvement. Create really specific and measurable goals. Remember to consider deadlines, which can really impact when a student receives services. Also, coordinate relevant agencies. Okay, I hope that this video helped you know what an individualized transition plan is. If you found this video to be helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. These are some of the best ways to support the work that I do. Also, if you have a tip for our community on transition planning, please leave it in the comment below. Thanks for watching.